Hello everybody, and welcome to the snowy British Columbia, where I want to talk to you about the concept of simplicity. So as I'm learning more and more about photography, reading books, watching YouTube videos, looking at websites and whatnot, I keep stumbling upon one thing over and over again, and that is simplicity. And it is something I've been wanting to explore for a little while, and I've sort of collected all the kind of wisdom from around everywhere, and I wanted to put it all together into one video over here. This video is a little bit different because instead of the usual landscape photography vlog, I wanted to do a video on a topic that I've been learning about over the past couple of weeks. The subject is simplicity. Simplicity is an item that I feel like it doesn't get talked about enough, and I feel like it is like one of the most important things you can do as a learning photographer in order to improve your photography. Let me tell you why. Let's begin with the basics. If you think about the eye, it has a very narrow field of focus. So for example, if you take your hand and focus on your thumb and then notice the rest of the hand, the pinky is completely out of focus. So you only have about 3 to 5 degrees of a field of focus in your eye. And so in order for your brain to kind of make a composite of an image of what's happening around you, your eye darts about everywhere and collects little bits of information, and then the brain puts together that image. Then if you return to photography and think about a photograph, what I've learned is that a good photograph is about de-randomizing a scene or whatever is happening in the composition and directing a viewer's eye on purpose in order to tell a message or tell a story or make a viewer feel something. You're kind of persuading them through the image, or like directing them through the image. Since you probably don't need any more convincing that it's important to simplify your images, let's get into the how. And that's what I've been researching kind of the most. So the easiest way to think about this is right before you take the image, you ask yourself, what can I reduce? What can I leave out of the scene in order to make it better? What is my main point of focus? What grabbed my attention initially? And then you photograph just that. And then if you think you can add more, you can try and add more. In the age of digital, you can take as many images as you'd like. So just start simple first. Photograph what you need to photograph initially, and then build on top of that. The more nitty-gritty of how to simplify are the following. So the first way to simplify is filling the frame. Filling the frame is basically taking your subject and filling up your entire frame with it. It's probably the simplest way to simplify it to begin with. You just walk up to the subject, find what's most important, and just fill your whole image with it. Number 2 is depth of field. So opening up the aperture to, for example, maybe 2.8, focusing on the subject and letting the rest fall away out of focus. There's blocking. You could, for example, say this is a line of snow here, and you want to photograph the subject beyond that line. You kind of drop your camera below that line, fill half of the frame with the thing that's out of focus, and then focus on whatever's further out. There's angling and composing. So like you could try different angles and see what kind of angles reduce the information and take away the things. So for example, you might have a bush somewhere here, but then you move or angle in a different way where it's not as intrusive into the photograph. There's silhouetting. For example, there's a lot of that happening where the higher the dynamic range of the camera, people try and kind of leave everything, all the details into the image, even though it's actually dark at the time of taking of the image. Maybe let those shadows be shadows. Exposing for hard light, so maybe middle of the day and you've got a bunch of shadows and a little bit of hard light, and you just expose for that hard light and everything else kind of falls away and stays dark. There's Photoshop obviously, but that's pretty straightforward. Finally, I just want to talk about this curve that I've seen on a blog somewhere, where it's kind of like a U-shaped curve, bell shape, upside down bell shaped curve. Anyway, there's this curve where a beginner begins with high complexity and not much goodness in the image, kind of drops down to simplicity, and his images start improving, and then you eventually start building up to more complexity once again. So remember that, simplify to begin with, take some time, and eventually you will, I suppose, the way I think about it, and I think that's how it works, is that you will eventually automatically start building complexity into your images, but simplicity is the key. I've already started a little bit because it's an underlying theme of everything. Doesn't get talked about enough, but it does get talked about every now and again. That's how I stumbled upon the subject, and now that I've studied it enough, I feel like it's a hugely important thing, and it should be number one in improving your photography. And I'm going to start implementing that and perhaps report back and see how it goes. I'll show you some more photos once I get them going with more simplicity happening. So anyway, until next time, please, if you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. I'm super grateful for you watching, and I'll definitely have a lot more of these coming, because I just love learning new stuff, and the way to learn best is to re-synthesize of all this information and make it into my own kind of content, and that's how I learn. So I'll have a few more of these coming for sure. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and can't wait to talk to you next time. Also, I totally forgot to mention this. If you have anything to add, have any thoughts about this video, please leave a comment. I would love any input that you also have. I'd love to hear it. Thanks, bye.